Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
It was early December 2025. Japan's Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, had just spoken about China. Many people thought her words meant she was backing down. It looked like a big step back from her earlier tough stance. But was this a real giving up to pressure? Or was it a very smart plan in a big game between countries? The answer to this question is very important. It could decide if there will be peace or trouble in the Indo-Pacific region for a long time. Her actions made people confused. Her statement seemed like a friendly offer to China, but China quickly said no to it. They did not accept what she said. This left many people wondering what really happened. Was she truly retreating, or was something else going on? To understand why she seemed to back down, we must first look at a single shocking statement she made 1 month earlier. That statement made the whole world worried. What exactly did she say that pushed Asia so close to a big crisis? 2. The big statement. The calendar turned back to November 7, 2025. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi stood in the Japanese Diet, a busy place where laws are made. An important question came from Katsuya Okada, a member of the opposition party. He asked what Japan would do if China attacked Taiwan or stopped ships from reaching the island. This was a difficult, hypothetical question about a possible future event. Prime Minister Takaichi gave a very clear answer. Her words surprised many people and changed the usual quiet talk. She said that a Chinese military attack on Taiwan, or even stopping ships from reaching the island, could create a survival-threatening situation for Japan. This meant it would directly threaten Japan's own safety and existence. If this happened, Japan might use its right to help defend itself and its friends under the country's 2015 security laws. No Japanese prime minister had ever spoken so openly about Taiwan before. For many decades, Japan had followed a policy called strategic ambiguity. This meant Japan was purposely unclear about what it would do if Taiwan faced a military threat. This method helped keep the peace. It allowed Japan to show support for Taiwan's security without directly angering China or making firm promises of military action that could increase tensions. Many leaders before her, including Shinzo Abe, had used this careful approach because it helped avoid serious conflicts. But Prime Minister Takaichi's remarks on November 7 shattered this long-held tradition. She plainly stated that Taiwan's security was deeply connected to Japan's own national survival. This was a direct assertion that suggested Japan could take military action to protect itself in a Taiwan crisis. She was the first Japanese leader in the post-World War II era to link these two things so clearly in public. This broke a line that no leader had dared to cross, making the situation much more risky. Breaking this tradition of strategic ambiguity was very dangerous. It removed the uncertainty that had helped prevent conflict for years. Now, China would know Japan's clearer stance. By making her position so clear, Prime Minister Takaichi had thrown a big rock into the calm waters of Asian diplomacy. This move created a dangerous new situation. Everyone waited to see how the giant across the sea, China, would react to this very bold statement. The world held its breath. 3. China gets angry. Prime Minister Takaichi's direct words about Taiwan quickly reached Beijing. China was very angry. Their response came fast and from many sides, not just angry words. It was a strong attack on Japan. First, Chinese officials used social media to show their anger. The Chinese consul general in Osaka, Shui Jian, posted a message that many people saw as a threat. He wrote that those who lunged at China should be ready for very bad results. Japan's officials said these comments were highly inappropriate and sent a formal complaint to Beijing. Soon after, China began to hurt Japan's economy. In the middle of November, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs told Chinese citizens not to travel to Japan. They said there were safety concerns because of Takaichi's provocative remarks. This warning stopped many Chinese tourists from visiting, which caused a big financial problem for Japan's important tourism industry. Adding to the economic pressure, on November 19th, China announced it would stop buying Japanese seafood. This was a significant step, as Japan had only recently resumed seafood exports to China. China also froze talks about restarting imports of Japanese beef, which had been stopped since 2001. These economic actions made it very clear that China was deeply unhappy with Japan's political stance. China also showed its anger with military actions. Chinese Coast Guard ships increased their patrols near islands that both countries claimed. On November 25, Japan had to send out fighter jets. They saw what they believed was a Chinese drone flying near a remote southern island where Japan planned to place anti-aircraft missiles. Even Chinese state media, like the People's Liberation Army Daily, published strong warnings in both Chinese and Japanese. They suggested that if Japan intervened in the Taiwan Strait, the country would pay a heavy price. These actions were not official war. Instead, China used what experts called informal coercion. It was a calculated way to create a lot of economic and strategic pressure without officially starting a big conflict. The aim was to force Japan to change its position. The pressure from China grew stronger every day. Prime Minister Takaichi was in a very difficult spot. Just then, an unpredictable and powerful world leader decided to step in. U.S. President Donald Trump was about to make a phone call. It might change everything. But would this call help Prime Minister Takaichi, or would it seal her fate? 4. A call from America. A new and powerful player entered the rising conflict. It was U.S. President Donald Trump. On November 25th, President Trump made two very important phone calls. He spoke first with Chinese President Xi Jinping. After that, he called Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. These back-to-back calls created a deep sense of uncertainty around the world. Many people immediately wondered what President Trump had discussed. Conflicting reports quickly appeared. News outlets like the Wall Street Journal and Reuters suggested that President Trump advised Takaichi to avoid making tensions worse. They reported he told her not to provoke China on the issue of Taiwan. However, Japan's government spokesperson Minoru Kihara later disagreed with these reports. He stated that President Trump did not pressure Prime Minister Takaichi to change her position. Instead, Kihara described the conversation as general, saying President Trump's tone was euphemistic, meaning indirect, rather than demanding. During his call with President Xi, Taiwan was a central topic. President Xi emphasized that Taiwan returning to China was an integral part of the post-war international order. Following these calls, President Trump announced plans to visit Beijing in April 2026. This indicated that he might be open to deeper engagement with China, even while the dispute between Japan and China was ongoing. This international situation made Japan's position very complicated. While Tokyo valued its alliance with Washington, the unclear messages from President Trump created diplomatic isolation. Japan could not be sure it had the full, strong support of its most powerful ally. In a major crisis, could Japan truly count on the United States? Or was Japan largely on its own? With growing pressure from Beijing and a wavering partner in Washington, Prime Minister Takaichi's biggest challenge might be much closer to home. Was her own country turning against her? 5. Trouble at home. Inside Japan, people did not all agree with Prime Minister Takaichi. The nation became deeply divided. Many former political leaders and opposition parties strongly criticized her. They said her words were dangerous and put Japan at risk. Former Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, an important voice, warned that talking about Taiwan needed great care. He said that speaking without thought could have bad results. Other opposition parties also asked Takaichi to change her mind. The Japanese Communist Party specifically called for her to take back her statements. They believed her words would only hurt Japan's relationship with China more. However, not everyone agreed with this criticism. Many young voters, for example, strongly supported Prime Minister Takaichi. They saw her as a strong leader. They believed she was finally brave enough to stand up to China. These younger people felt worried about China's growing military and power. They wanted Japan to show strength. Takaichi's firm stance made her more popular among these parts of the Japanese public. Taiwan, the island at the center of the problem, reacted very carefully. Taiwan's president, Lai Ching-te, thanked Prime Minister Takaichi for her support. But Taiwan's leaders also wanted to be very careful. They did not want to say anything that would make China even angrier. Taiwan feared becoming the main reason for a big fight between Japan and China. They just wanted peace and stability for their own people. So, Prime Minister Takaichi was in a very tough situation. She faced pressure from powerful countries outside Japan, and now, at home, her own country was divided. She had to find a way to make both her critics and her supporters happy, or at least keep them calm. Everyone in Japan and around the world watched her closely. They knew she had to speak to the parliament again soon. Most people thought she would have to say sorry or change her strong position. They expected her to surrender to all the pressure. 6. The second speech. The day was December 3rd. Prime Minister Takaichi once again stood before the Japanese parliament. Many people watched her, both in Japan and around the world. They expected her to offer an apology or to take back her strong words about Taiwan from November. A member of parliament, Sanae Takaichi, asked her directly if Japan's position on Taiwan was still the same as in the 1972 Japan-China joint communiqué. He also asked about the problems her earlier speech had caused for Japanese tourism and trade. Takaichi spoke carefully, choosing her words well. She said, "The basic position of our government regarding Taiwan is as stated in the 1972 Japan-China joint communiqué, and there are no changes whatsoever to this position." In that important 1972 agreement, Japan had recognized China's view that Taiwan was an unbreakable part of its land. Japan had also said it understood and respected this. However, Prime Minister Takaichi did not say she was sorry for her words from November 7th. She also did not formally take back her statement that a conflict over Taiwan could be a survival-threatening situation for Japan. Right after her speech, there was a lot of confusion and different opinions. On Chinese social media, like Weibo, news spread very fast. Sanae Takaichi finally gave in, became a top trending topic. Many people in China believed she had backed down because of Beijing's strong pressure. News reports in Japan and Western countries also talked about her statement. They debated if this was a full retreat from her earlier stance or just a small change. The world watched, trying to understand what her words truly meant. But China's government quickly showed it did not see this as a win. The very next day, on December 4th, a spokesperson from China's foreign ministry, Lin Zhen, spoke. He sharply criticized Takaichi's remarks. He called them prevarication, meaning she was avoiding the truth. Lin Zhen said China would absolutely not accept her continued refusal to take back her comments from November. He questioned why Japan would not clearly state its promises from the 1972 agreement. He said that simply saying the old agreement was still valid was completely different from taking back her new strong words. China believed she was using a trick to appear like she was making concessions without truly changing her mind. So, Prime Minister Takaichi had spoken, but her speech only deepened the mystery. It did not make things clearer. To understand if she had truly backed down, people now had to look at 3 different ways to understand her speech: what China believed she meant, what Japan said she meant, and what many experts and analysts thought had really happened. 7. What it all means. Prime Minister Takaichi's speech on December 3 was very important, but also complex. Many people wondered if she had given in to China after facing so much pressure. However, when we look closer at her words and the situation, we see that it was not a simple backing down. Her actions showed a careful diplomatic move. For many decades, Japan had a policy called strategic ambiguity regarding Taiwan. This meant that Japan did not say clearly what it would do if China attacked Taiwan. This policy helped keep peace and stability in the region. It made China unsure about Japan's reaction, which acted as a deterrent. Also, it allowed Japan to avoid making direct threats against China or clear promises that could lead to conflict. So strategic ambiguity was seen as a way to manage difficult relations. But some people believed this policy was no longer working. With China's military growing stronger, they argued that ambiguity could be dangerous. If China thought Japan would not intervene, it might be more likely to attack Taiwan. These people called for strategic clarity. They wanted Japan to state clearly its commitment to Taiwan's security. Takaichi's first speech in November was a clear step towards this clarity. She linked Taiwan's safety directly to Japan's own national survival, which was a big change in Japan's public stance. After her December 3 speech, there were three main ways to understand what she said. First, China saw her words as an unacceptable dodge. Beijing had demanded that Takaichi completely retract her November comments. China believed her new statement was not enough. They felt she was trying to avoid the real problem without truly changing her mind. Chinese officials said her words were far from adequate and did not accept them. Second, the Japanese government saw the speech as a way to calm tensions. They explained that Japan's basic position on Taiwan had not changed since the 1972 agreement with China. In her speech, Takaichi reaffirmed this long-standing agreement. She also said she would refrain from making statements about specific cases in the future. This was a clear step back from her earlier, very direct comments. Tokyo hoped this would help reduce the growing conflict with China and its negative effects on trade and tourism. Third, many experts and international analysts had a more complex view. They believed Takaichi made a very clever move, a tactical repositioning. She appeared to step back, but she did not truly give up her main point. She had already clearly stated in November that Japan saw Taiwan's security as vital for its own. This important message was now on the public record for all countries to consider. Her December speech was a way to ease the immediate pressure. It was a retreat in how it looked, but not in its real substance. She avoided further escalation while ensuring her tougher stance was understood. The immediate crisis seemed to be managed, but Takaichi's actions had already created new challenges. Her words had stirred up old issues and would have deep, lasting effects on the future of the entire region. 8. The future of Asia. Even after Prime Minister Takaichi's speech in December, problems did not go away completely. China's leaders still wanted her to take back her earlier strong words about Taiwan. They said her new statement was not enough. The diplomatic talks remained stuck. China's pressure on Japan did not stop. Asia's peace seemed fragile. The crisis changed how countries in the region thought about their security. Many nations rethought their alliances and defense plans. They saw peace was less stable than they once thought. Many people wondered if Takaichi had truly given up her strong position. She had not. Instead, she had tested a limit, a red line, with her bold statement. She faced strong anger from China. Then she pulled back just enough to stop a larger conflict. Her message about Taiwan's safety for Japan's survival was now clear. Her tougher view became public, changing how Japan was seen. The immediate crisis was managed, avoiding a direct fight. But deep tensions between Japan and China stayed. Asia became more uncertain and dangerous than before. This event showed how easily regional peace can change. What do you think? Did Prime Minister Takaichi make the right decision, or was her gamble too reckless?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.